Welcome back to Cheap Seats here on YouTube. Today we're going to continue on our series where we're breaking down NFL divisions, breakout players by team. Today I'm actually really excited for what we're doing. Obviously tonight we've got the Chiefs, we've got the Chargers playing in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Big game, super fun way to start the year. Two teams I think are going to be really good in one of the hardest divisions in the sport, if not the hardest division in the sport. I think that this is a division that's going to have so much entertainment and so much unique kind of battle between all four teams. Like I know people right now are sleeping on the Raiders a little bit. I think the Raiders are going to be a little bit better than a lot of people think they are. Unfortunately, in this division, it's going to be tough. But with that game going on tonight, I figure we're going to go through the NFC or the AFC West and give you a few players that I think can make big changes and be big difference makers for the respective clubs. Leading off, let's just go right to the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously a harder team to pick an individual breakout player because they have a very set roster. We know the guys that are going to be playing large roles. Their defense is largely returned. They have a lot of established veterans on their team. But I believe that the key to really, really unlocking this offense, some people would say it's Hollywood Brown's availability and ability to stay on the football field. But for me, it's somebody who I was actually very low on compared to the consensus in the draft cycle, and that's Xavier Worthy. I think that what Xavier Worthy offers and what he was able to show in glimpses last year with the absolute elite speed that he provides, he is the top 1% of top 1% of athletes in this league. And I think that him and Mahomes are going to gradually build more and more chemistry. Obviously, the game-breaking ability that he has, he can change an entire football game in one play. And not many guys have the ability to do that at the level that he does. And I think the more comfortable that he and Mahomes get together, the more you're going to be able to see him unlocked. Not just as a trick play weapon, because last year, obviously, we saw him used in a lot of different ways, a myriad of different kind of offensive sets. But I think his downfield ability is going to be shown off this year. I think they're going to look to really, really, really stretch the field with him and do it with consistency. And I feel like there's more in the tank than even I thought there was at draft time in relation to the route tree that he's capable of running. Obviously, he lacks physicality. He's a smaller guy. But that speed is a game changer, and I believe that they're going to find ways to scheme him really effectively. I think that Xavier Worthy this year is going to be given primary reps, and by season's end, I just think that chemistry with him and Mahomes, he's going to be able to open up so much stuff for them, because if he consistently creates separation, if he consistently can get into open field, the whole offense gets opened up for them. Pacheco's life becomes easier. Hollywood Brown, another elite speed guy, if he's on the field, it becomes easier. Travis Kelce doing all the underneath work, Kareem Hunt, and they've got weapons upon weapons upon weapons. And then obviously the maestro of it all is Patrick Mahomes, who, if you give him these unique kind of Swiss Army knife weapons that he can use and kind of roll out in so many different ways, I just think there's a possibility that a guy like Xavier Worthy is going to see maybe not a Pro Bowl leap, but that wouldn't be shocking to me. He didn't have the most consistent rookie season, but I just think big things are coming for him. And like I said, at this point, my eval on him, I think, was wrong. I think there's more in the tank than just being a straight ahead runner. I think there's more in the tank in terms of the physicality than you'd think from his frame. I think he does have a level of toughness to his game that I just didn't see initially. So I believe that Xavier Worthy and what he offers to this team is going to be the breakout star of the season. And I think he's such a critical piece for this offense because, like I said, his ability to stretch the field, his ability to draw a safety, his ability to get that extra support opens up everything else for all of these guys. And if you have to throw support over the top on him, man, does it make all the underneath stuff so simple. So I think Xavier Worthy comes out this year and proves why he was picked where he was, despite some criticisms from foolish individuals like me. And I'm excited to see kind of what he can do, especially against this defensive secondary with the Chargers, because the defensive secondary with Chargers, like obviously if Derwin James is healthy, everything has changed for them. But I do have questions about their corners. I do have questions about what they're going to be long term in terms of how they get it done on the defensive side of the football. And that brings me to the Chargers player that I think is their key critical breakout player, somebody that they need to really, really, really get it done at a high level for them to really unlock everything they can do on the defensive end. And for me, that's Cam Hart. I just think that, it's not often you have a 6'3", 207-pound corner with, let's be real. Like, he's not an elite runner. Like, obviously, the vertical skills are what pops. The physical strength, how he can hand fight, how he can press. I think he's got a little bit more in-game speed than people maybe give him credit for. I think they see the 40 time at 4.5, and they see the physical size, and they think, why isn't he playing safety? I think that he's a really, really high-level athlete. I think that he has the ability to mirror at a really, really high level. The difficulty for him is that at this point in his career, and it's not just the professional career, it's the college career as well, there's just not a lot of ball production. There's just not a lot of actual production in terms of being able to turn a play, like being able to get that critical interception. He showed a knack for pass breakups last year. He did well in that. I think he hesitates on his breaks slightly, which it could be just a physical size and length thing as well. But the difficulty is he doesn't have the privilege with 4.5 speed of hesitating on breaks against high-level receivers, and we're going to see that tonight with the absolute smoke and burn wide receivers that the Chiefs have. Cam Hart is going to have to really step up and show. And if he ends up wanting to mirror that game of like a Marshawn Lattimore, somebody who's more physical and more assertive, then he has to be the assertive corner to play that bully ball style. You cannot hesitate and be passive if you're not going to be an absolute burner in terms of the speed. Obviously he's had some health injury or health concerns throughout his college time, but the physicality is so good, and he plays physical without committing penalties as well, which is key. I think he's got great feet. I think he's got awesome hips when he just fully commits to a route. And now it's just about the confidence of developing a mindset where you can attack and be that attack corner and put pressure and know that you have safeties behind you that are elite at their job, right? When you have those guys and when they're healthy, it gives a corner the confidence to be able to commit to a route and be able to really dig in and play those aggressive press sets. And I just think that with his physical tool chest, like, there's no reason why Cam Hart can't become one of the better corners in this league. Like, he has the potential to be a true shutdown corner if he, like I said, develops that mindset of, I'm just going to bully you, I'm just going to press you, I'm going to be in your shit, I'm going to be up in your face, I'm going to commit to routes, I'm going to force you to go over the top of me, and then I'm going to use my size, my length, and my 40-inch vertical leap to really shut down your routes on the backside. Because like I said, once he gets burned, he does not have the straight line speed to catch up, but that physicality and that verticality that he provides is in height, in terms of vertical leap, in terms of his wingspan, and all of those elements. I just think that there is a mechanism for him to become genuinely great at what he does, especially knowing he has those safeties behind him that have a tendency to be so elite when on the field. But I think that Cam Hart is somebody that can change the entire way that the Chargers play defense, just because of the physical skill set that he offers is so unique for an NFL corner. Obviously, being a young player, 24 years old, there's a lot of growth and a lot of room that's going to come up, right? But I don't know. I just genuinely believe, and again, this is another guy that I didn't see him as a corner coming out of the draft. Coming out of the draft, I thought he had to move to safety. I just did not think he could play corner at the NFL level with consistency, with that speed and that kind of indecisiveness and the shoulder injuries. That hesitation for just a moment as a corner will end your career. You know what I mean? Like, it is the thing that's going to put you back on depth charts. You have to be arrogant in your commitment of knowing your breaks. And I think that we've seen and we've heard through training camp that some of those adjustments are being made. And I believe that Cam Hart is going to be a guy that this year shows out and proves the Chargers right in their confidence to leave him on an outside spot. Next up, we're actually going to go to two of my favorite players to talk about. We'll start with the Raiders. The Raiders are in an interesting position because the Raiders have so many potential options that they can kind of run through in terms of guys that could be breakout players. Like DJ Glaze, I think, has to be great for them. Starting at right tackle. I just think, and obviously there's some heavy-footedness stuff there. He gets beat inside and outside, which is scary. But I think during training camp, he showed some legitimate growth. I think that he's big and he's physical and he has the ability to be an elite run blocker if he wants. And with Ashton Genty being drafted and, Geno Smith being the game navigator that he is, and Brock Bowers, and they've got all these weapons, and they got other guys in the offensive line as well that are key. I think guys like DJ Glaze need to be great. I think you need to see another jump from JPJ to become one of the dominant right guards in football. I think you need Colton Miller to really stand up and be that guy. And then on the defensive side, there's a lot of dudes that really need to do more than they've done, because this defense is full of questions. And I think, again, breakout guys, like I think Darian Porter is somebody that could end up grabbing a starting corner spot as the season goes, because, again, the dynamic athleticism that he provides. But the player that I'm going to focus on today is actually Dante Thornton Jr. Again, it's another guy where there's such a unique blend of physical tools where, if used correctly, and now the path is clear with Amari Cooper gone and see ya. Obviously they've got Trey Tucker and they've got Jack Beck and they've got Jacoby Myers there, and Brock Bowers is going to open up so much all over the field. And at this point he is somebody that you have to send a double to, which opens up everything. Having Dante Thornton Jr. on the outside, just being the 6'5", 210-pound, 4.3 speed, it's not just elite long range speed too. For a 6'5" guy, the acceleration is remarkable. I know people like to do this comparison, and I know it's an unfair comparison to compare a guy who's been so successful. When I talk about this, I'm talking about as prospects. It's impossible not to look at a guy this big and this fast with this limited of a route tree, because he does have a very limited route tree, and not think about DK Metcalf, another player that I was not overly high on at draft time, right? There is legitimate strength to the way that he plays, the way that he hand fights with consistency, the way that he's able to sink his hips and get into DBs, force off and press, and then explode and get downfield, and then that ability to just be 6'5" and go up and get the high balls. He is a guy that, like I said, you put him in jump ball scenarios, you put him as a deep threat, you have to respect him over the top. Even if he's not great, he is gonna bring safety support, which frees up so much, especially having a high quality slot receiver, one of the most dynamic receiving tight ends in football, if not the most dynamic receiving tight end in football. It just opens up so much. And Geno Smith is not an elite quarterback, but what Geno Smith is an incredibly smart quarterback who finds the right pieces and the right timing to open up the right spots. And I think having Dante Thornton Jr. on the outside, where you have to respect him with a safety over the top, with his play strength, with his ability to bust big plays. If he gets behind you in one-on-one, you are cooked if that ball is delivered in a reasonable way, right? Like genuine speed at 6'5", which is just so remarkably rare. The biggest thing is he doesn't have like real genuine agility in terms of yak creation. Like if he beats you on speed, he can beat you on speed, and he can, once he gets ahead of you, you're largely unlikely to catch him. The route tree is so limited that if he catches in some reasonable amount of space, if he has to try to make a cut, like he's a single cut player, there's not a lot of wiggle there. Obviously a deep safety look can kind of remove him from the game, but I think, again, that's advantageous for the other guys in the offense and their ability to get loose, because that deep safety has to respect Thornton over the top, and like I said, we need to see significant growth in terms of footwork and route tree, because right now, like, he is, if you want to be complimentary, he's a 3-route player, and at the NFL level, that it's very hard to make that work, because especially in this era where scheme is so detailed, right? Scout is so detailed. Guys like Dante Thornton can be scouted out of a game plan, but with that size and that vertical ability and that downhill speed and everything else, like I said, he is a massive threat, and the reception totals might not be huge, but like he averaged basically 22 a catch last year. He's young, he's fast, and I think that he is the X factor for this Raiders offense because, like I said, if you've got Genty and you've got Bowers and you've got Myers and you've got all these guys that can do a lot of things, I just think that he's the guy that frees them up in space a lot because of the dynamic skill that he provides. Lastly, we're going to go to the Denver Broncos, and we're going to talk about maybe my favorite player in the NFL, maybe my favorite edge player that I have done evaluations on in the 10 years I've been doing them, Jonah Ellis. Obviously, Nick Bonito is the man. I think there's a good chance that Nick Bonito can win a Defensive Player of the Year this year. Jonah Ellis is special. I had Jonah Ellis as a first-round grade. I think that Jonah Ellis was the most dynamic edge rusher in that draft class, and that draft class was loaded with edge players. I have made several videos about Jonah Ellis. I believe that Jonah Ellis this season completely unlocks. I believe that if they use him with frequency on snaps, his ability, he has no holes is the thing. Like, I understand he's not the biggest guy in the world. The physical stuff, I guess, would be the biggest question mark is, can he hold up at the size he is? But I'll tell you this. He's got every move in the bag. He's got counters upon counters upon counters. I know everybody was going nuts about Latu and what a technician Latu is. Jonah Ellis is a better technical edge rusher. And the thing that, and I love Latu, the thing that also is provided is that he has an elite cross-arm punch. When he gets hands-on body, so when a lineman gets hands-on body with him, his ability to cross-arm punch, rip through, use power moves as a smaller guy, use his spin, counter, swim, the footwork is so elite, the hip bend is fantastic. And the thing that sets him aside, and the thing that, like I said, for me, was the thing that reminded me so much of TJ Watt, is there's just no quit. There's no lag in the motor. There's never a down that he is just playing casually. This kid wants to win every single time, every single snap, every single moment of every single down. It is such a remarkable motor. It is such a remarkable skill set. Like I said, every counter in the book, he has every move that you could want. The only thing that's not there is elite size, like elite athleticism. He's not that guy. But Jonah Ellis, to me, is a double-digit sack guy this year. I think Jonah Ellis gets double-digit sacks. I don't think Jonah Ellis stops getting double-digit sacks for a long time. I think he turns into a multiple-time Pro Bowler. I genuinely believe that Jonah Ellis is going to be one of the best edge rushers we've seen in this era because the mix of technician and will and determination and intensity and technique and the absolute work rate that he puts into it, and the film scout that we've all heard so much about, that this kid is just a football junkie. I love him. I think, like I said, right now he is fast becoming my favorite player in this league, my favorite defensive player in this league. I was desperately hoping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would pick him over Braswell last year because I'm very low on Chris Braswell. But Jonah Ellis, to me, is the X factor for the Denver Broncos. I think he makes it almost impossible to cover them on the edges. And then the secondary is obviously disgusting. So he has that extra half second that other teams don't have. Other players don't have that ability to get home for the same amount of time because the secondary and what they provide for those edge rushers. This defense is going to be the best defense in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. The offense will be fine, but this defense is going to be one of those defenses that we remember as it grows and progresses together if everybody's able to stay healthy and on the field. But that is my 4-player breakdown for the AFC West. I hope you're as pumped up about the possibilities inside this division and the war that this division is going to be as I am, because genuinely I don't know if there's something that I'm more excited about. I guess some people would say the NFC North would be that next division, and I agree with that, but these are the two best divisions in the sport, and I'm so pumped to see if the Kansas City Chiefs can hold on to their standing, or if one of these young buck teams is going to step up like the Denver Broncos and take that crown. But We'll be back again later with another video. Please like, subscribe, check me out on TikTok or Instagram. Everything's under the same name, and give it a look. I know the video editing is still a work in progress. I'm trying to improve that. I've never done these videos before, and I won't just be providing NFL content. There'll be a lot of NBA, there'll be a lot of Major League Baseball as well, and an assortment of other things, especially with a focus on draft and development content. So if you like what you see, and if you can live with the fact that I'm improving as a video editor, please stick around, subscribe, and like I said, if there's specific content you'd like to see, post it in the comments section and we'll go from there. But until then, have a great day. Bye.